say the words heroin dealer, and what image comes to mind? Well, I can almost assure you it is not the face that I confronted in a holding cell in Albany last week. It was hard to believe that the petite, pretty redhead with the soft voice sitting across from me in that cell and telling me of drug deals and prostitution and crime sprees had been a heroin addict for more than half her life, or that she had been in and out of prison a dozen times. Well, tonight you'll hear her story of addiction, deceit, crime and punishment, despair, and the tiniest glimmer of hope. Because of her local connections as a dealer, we agreed not to show her face and to disguise her voice. Can you remember that first experience?
Yeah.
What was it like?
It was great. All the pain and stuff in my family, it just got me out of that.
The first time?
Yeah.
So you knew there'd be a second time?
Yeah.
How quickly after the first time was there a second time?
The next day.
She started using drugs when she was in the 8th grade.
It started at age 13 with crystal meth.
A year later, her fate was sealed. What was your first introduction to heroin?
I was 14. Just hanging with the wrong people, I guess.
And as a 14-year-old, you could afford it?
I mean, no. I mean, you know, that's why you have men, older men, that are willing to give it to you to get you hooked, you know? So you do things for them.
Prostitution?
Yeah.
So while other kids her age were going on their first dates, she was turning tricks to support a consuming heroin addiction.
I always said I would never do that, but it led me to that, because how else would I support my habit?
She had her own apartment in Albany and a drug dealer boyfriend who she now says was playing her. And as her habit and his demands grew, it was no time at all before she was dealing and turning the money over to him. What's life like for you while you're doing this?
I mean, some days it is glamorous, you know, the money and all the drugs and all the people.
Working her own territory in Albany's South End, she would rake in as much as $800 in a single sale for a drug that wholesales for about $20 a bag. Where did you find your customers?
A lot of them came through him. He would just stay there, and then people would come over.
They would come to your apartment?
Yeah, yeah.
And so basically, you're like a little heroin shop operating out of your house.
Yeah. I mean, they just tell me what they want, and then I give it to them, and they give me the money, and they either get high there or they leave.
Did you ever feel in danger?
Yeah, I mean, at times, you know, there was guns, and, you know, I would mess up money because I would be getting high. So, of course, I was terrified, you know.
Would people be shocked to find out who's using heroin today?
Definitely. It's everybody. Nurses, I mean, stay-at-home moms, you know, anybody.
And a daily pattern began. Get up, shoot up, sell drugs, buy drugs, sell yourself, buy more drugs, do drugs, and then try and save a little at the end of the day before crashing so you can do it all over again tomorrow.
The first thing you think of when you wake up. Last thing you think of before you go to bed. What am I going to do tomorrow?
And if she still needed money for her habit, there was always boosting.
Stealing from stores, stealing from homes, stole from people, stole from family.
And she got caught over and over again. How many times have you been to jail?
Prison once, jail maybe 10 times.
For what?
Drugs, prostitution, stealing.
The sad irony is, like many users, all she dreamed about was getting out and sticking another needle in her neck.
I think all of us say we're never going to do it because it is a lot of freaking misery, you know, every day.
Do you have any advice for anybody based on what's happened to you?
I would just say, don't try it the first time. Don't ever pick it up.
So what does the future hold? Well, this is not her first time digging out from addiction. The last time she walked away from heroin, it was for 3 years. And then she said boredom and opportunity drew her back in. She has much to lose, but she still maintains relationships within the addicted community. And law enforcement officers tell me unless and until she severs them completely, she puts herself at greater risk every day.
Well, they are the people who try to help heroin addicts to kick the habit. Counselors tasked with righting a sinking ship, so to speak. And here now to explain what goes into all of that is William Beam with St. Peter's Addiction Recovery Center. William is a program manager for 2 outpatient clinics. So we talk to counselors, of course, all the time who try to help people in breaking the addiction. Obviously, you heard, in Liz's piece there, just so hard to do. What is the most successful method in doing so?
Well, Dory, you have to break the addiction cycle. And for many people, it's getting into treatment, inpatient, outpatient, detox. There are a number of good programs in the Capital District. Getting into a program and taking a look at the patterns, the cycle, the habits, the habitual day-to-day things that go into using need to be addressed and broken.
It's interesting you bring up the words pattern and cycle, and those seem to be key parts of what we're talking about here going into this. I guess, how hard is it in terms of breaking the cycle and the habit, and what's the hardest part about getting back into the real world?
It's incredibly difficult to do. It requires a lot of really, really hard work from the individual, and I think a lot of people don't understand just how hard a job it is to get well. Getting sober involves getting clean first. That's fairly easy to do. It's uncomfortable for a heroin addict, but the long-term day-to-day work in getting sober is the most difficult part, and that's the most challenging thing to do.
And talking about what could be, I guess, the sobering reality, I guess the success rate that we're talking about getting someone clean, I guess, what is that success rate?
This is a chronic disease like cancer or diabetes, and so it's really tough. That's a really tough question to answer. It's a day-to-day thing for these patients, and it requires a lot of hard teamwork. An individual can't do this alone.
Certainly not. Well, thank you so much for joining us here, William Beam with St. Peter's. And again, a reminder, we do have our panel of experts live that you can call right now in our newsroom.
All right, thank you, Dory and William. It's a heroin antidote that brings addicts who overdose right back to life. But first responders say it's an uphill battle to get their hands on it. We'll tell you why. You're watching Hooked, the heroin epidemic.